Jude Augusta. He's part of a new group called ProtectNewHampshire.com, which is trying to get some voter reform legislation to ensure ballot integrity. And as we've just been talking about here, and the president now knows about it, there was a problem in Windham, New Hampshire. No one knows what the genesis of the problem was, but 4 Republicans in the little town of Windham, New Hampshire, candidates for the legislature, were each shorted 300 votes, almost exactly 300, between 297 to 303 votes. Very, very suspicious. But this is another problem. There's same-day registration, the college towns, buses from Massachusetts, maybe. The president thinks buses from Massachusetts exist. I'm not sure. But joining us now on the line is Jude Augusta. He's from ProtectNewHampshire.com. Thanks for being with us, Jude.
Hey, Howie. I'm here with Representative Tim Baxter, who's actually putting forth the bill as well. And I want to say hello to beautiful Balloon Head and the New Bedford goatee boy as well.
Thanks for having us, Howie.
Thank you. They appreciate your plaudits. So tell us what's going on in New Hampshire here. First, I thought the same day registration had been somewhat resolved, and we talked with Governor Sununu about it. And he said, it was kind of a watered down bill, but they had to make sure they couldn't be successfully sued by the ACLU or other Democrat operatives. So now we have this other, perhaps a problem or perhaps an anomaly, as the Manchester Union leader or discrepancy, as the Manchester Union leader calls it. What's going on here? Should I put the rep on? Put the rep on first, I guess.
Yeah, thanks, Howie. So there's a couple issues going on. One, with the town of Windham, you're seeing the state reps, every single Republican, roughly 300 votes, which is a 6% variance, a huge difference for a local election. But there's not just this election, which just happened, which we need to make sure there's an investigation into that. There's also the elections going forward. And that's really Protect New Hampshire, this group that was just formed. One of our core issues is dealing with the election fraud. And we have 3 things in HB 86 as amended that we support. You got to have a photo ID when you vote. You need, if you're going to same-day registration, you have to have actual proof that you live in New Hampshire. And then college students can't vote unless they actually live here. And so what I hear is, oh, Tim, all the college students that vote, they are legal. And I say, great. If they're legal, every college student that votes that supposedly lives here in New Hampshire, the colleges can't force them to pay out-of-state tuition. And real quick, the college bureaucrats start to change their tune when you talk about taking away some of their money.
Oh, that's brilliant. What a great idea that is. Why didn't we think of that long ago, Representative?
Well, I just want to thank my constituents that came together. They asked me to get involved with Protect New Hampshire, but honestly, they deserve a lot of credit. And there's over 600 people across New Hampshire that have now signed this petition on ProtectNewHampshire.com. And essentially what people are saying is we're sick and tired of corrupt big government politicians telling us which of our rights we're going to be allowed to keep. Politicians are supposed to work for us. So let's flip that on its head. Let's demand that the politicians protect our rights, that they fight for fair elections. And every single patriot that agrees with that, please go to ProtectNewHampshire.com and sign our petition so we can put more pressure on the politicians.
And Howie, on ProtectNewHampshire.com, there's a petition that covers a couple of different tenets. One protects our voting integrity, our election integrity. The other one protects our Second Amendment rights against encroachment by the federal government. There's a bill being proposed that would enact a $75,000 per incident fine with a 15 to 25-year prison sentence for people that violate the rule, which is basically having a gun that is unregistered, having a gun that has a certain magazine capacity or a certain caliber. It would put tens of millions of people in the big house. We don't have that kind of capacity. We know what they're doing. So we have this petition, that protects the Second Amendment, protects the First Amendment so that we don't all get labeled as domestic terrorists, and it protects our voting integrity. So we're doing what we can here in New Hampshire to have a safe haven in the Northeast so that, our constituents, the people that want to move to New Hampshire and bordering states like yours and you and yours on the show right now and listening to your show can have integrity in our elections, Second Amendment rights, First Amendment rights, and protection against the encroachment of the Fed so that we don't have to be subordinate to them, because the 10th Amendment allows the states to basically run themselves. You know, the Fed is allowed a few things, to lay and impose taxes, to declare war, to regulate interstate commerce, a few enumerated powers. The rest of the powers are with the state. It's like the state government that controls state police, voting age, state of age of consent, all those things, the general welfare clause. We're just basically putting a flag down and drawing a line in the sand and saying, you shall not pass. We run New Hampshire. You don't.
Representative, I want to go back to talking about the voting irregularities, shall we say. I seem to recall that in 2016, the Secretary of State did some research on some of these thousands of college students who claimed that they were residents of New Hampshire, and it turned out only a handful had actually, gotten New Hampshire driver's licenses and, filed notices of legal domicile, et cetera, et cetera. And yet, as I recall, there were no prosecutions, or maybe one or two prosecutions of college students, and fewer than 10 prosecutions of anybody for double voting in New Hampshire. What the hell? Who dropped the ball?
Well, let Tim run you through some stats that we have. We have the actual numbers.
Yeah, so there was 9,170 out-of-state students that voted from Plymouth and Durham, and that's essentially UNH, our biggest university. And really, it's quite as simple as I said before. If you're a college student and you're going to vote here, great, but the colleges are not allowed there to charge them out-of-state tuition. And as I said, real quick, they changed their tune when you start to take away their money. And it's just something that absolutely needs to be done. It's such common sense.
Yeah.
We have so many same-day voter registrants. We have 814,500 total votes and registered 1.19 million votes, but we had 345,000-ish that were opportunities for fraud. That's more than a third. And so we're trying to basically eradicate that, stop the nonsense, because we know what's going on. And the sad thing is, New Hampshire has 4 electoral votes. It's sleepy, doesn't really get looked at. Nobody will really notice, and it keeps losing. But what's really bizarre, you mentioned this on your show earlier, straight down ballot Republican ticket. We flipped all the state government. We have a Republican governor, executive council, state legislature, both in the House and Senate. Yet we vote blue on all the executives, all these federal races. I don't know how that makes sense.
No, especially when they flip 67 House seats. I mean, Representative, that's a landslide. You guys weren't expecting to flip 67 out of 400 plus seats, were you?
No,
I wasn't. That's for
phenomenal.
Sure.
Yeah.
The AG is claiming they don't have the resources. We don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, this is being broomed, to use a Howie phrase. We're not going to let it be broomed.
Now, those.
Can I also kind of chime in real quick, if that's okay?
Go ahead.
There's not only a question of an investigation in terms of what happened, but also going forward. And as a representative, I do want to correct Jude real quick. HB 86 and SB 154, which is the gun bill, they're not my bills, but I'm trying to help lead the constituent and the grassroots support and drum up support for this. We should tackle this as representatives going forward, and things like requiring someone to have a voter ID. If you're going to vote here, prove that you live here, have a lease, utility bill, etc. Common sense things, and making sure that college students, if they live here, they can vote. But if you're not from here and you pay out-of-state tuition, then you don't get to vote in the New Hampshire election.
Now, of those, let me go back to these 9,170 students that voted in 2016, the same-day registration college students. How many of them were actually prosecuted later on when they did not change their legal domicile to the granite state? Anybody know?
The answer to that, Howie. The
What?
Big fat goose egg.
What?
The big fat goose egg.
Zero. I mean, I'm sure a handful of them did become New Hampshire residents, but I'm sure that it was a tiny, tiny minority. And yet, after they were threatened with legal action, nobody did anything.
Nothing, which seems to be the part of the course of government, corruption right now. But, we're trying to eradicate that and trying to make a difference. So if your listeners, especially the New Hampshire folks, go to protectnewhampshire.com. They sign this petition. It's a three-part petition. We're going to basically draw a line in the sand and say, We are running New Hampshire. The Fed is not going to. They're going to want to have mail-in balloting nationwide. And the Constitution allocates the free and fair elections to the state. So that is unconstitutional. The constitutional is broomed itself. But we are not going to allow that for our voting rights, our First Amendment rights, and our Second Amendment rights.
We're tweeting it out.
Yeah, we're tweeting out a link to your website, Jude, and we appreciate it, and keep us informed, and we want to stay on this case. And again, the President of the United States, I can tell you personally, is interested in these matters.
I read that. And how I had to add that Cecilia and Nathaniel, who you talked to before, are listening right now, and their jaws on the floor that Howie Carr is talking about them. My 9 and 10-year-olds. You talked to them before. You're their hero.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Gospel in the Augusta household. There's no noise allowed during the Trump line every day in the Augusta household.
Thank you, Jude, and thank you, Representative, and keep up the good work, and keep those kids listening. I need the younger demographics coming along. Great news. The Gen 40 heater is back and just in time for the really cold temperatures, which don't seem to be going away anytime soon in New England. Oil prices are going up. You know that. The Keystone XL pipeline has been stopped. Now the beautiful people want to stop the Dakota pipeline. 35 million gallons of oil a day are already gone. And if they shut down the Dakota pipeline, that means the price of everything is going up, including food. Now there's a moratorium on fracking on federal land. Texas is suffering brownouts because of all the cutbacks and the reliance on so-called renewable energy. You need to start planning to stay warm. And that means you need the Gen 40 heater. Robert from the Cape says the Gen 40 performs like no other heater I've ever used. It is remarkable. Taylor knows this, right, Taylor?
That's right. I use it every night in my son's room. He loves it. It gets a nice, comfortable, long sleep every night. And I believe that's partly because it's nice and warm steadily throughout the night. But as you were saying, Howie, you definitely want to get ahead of the curve when it comes to heating your home. Even if it's just a room at a time, wherever you want to use it, it's very portable. You don't want to open up your bills later this month and say, oh my God, how much am I paying? Why didn't I buy the Gen 40 2 months ago?
That's
right. You can do it right now.
Look how light it is. If you're on social media, you can see me holding it up with my left hand. The Gen 40 makes you feel warmer than your furnace, and it also costs less to run. You may be working from home more now, and you'll need to pay close attention to the heating bills. The Eden Pure Gen 40 will pay for itself in a matter of weeks. Go to EdenPure.com and put in code word HowieDeal to get $50 off the sale price. That's EdenPure.com and use code word HowieDeal for an extra $50 off. These heaters are in high demand, so go right now to EdenPure.com. I'm Howie Carr.
Howie Carr. You can trust him. He's not like the others.